manufacturing back to America after 40 years.
Up on market shares, a busy week for President Biden. He was in Syracuse yesterday after a $6.1 billion grant for Micron, what he announced during his visit.
The president celebrates a foreign aid bill finally passed by Congress after 6 months of the delay. What's inside the package, including a potential TikTok ban.
And the market's just wrapping up their week. All three indexes in the green after a rough performance last week. We'll break down why that is and the new GDP numbers and some of our top movers on the week. Hold on to your wallets because Market Shares starts right now. President Biden back in Syracuse to tout new federal grants for the future Micron chip manufacturing plant in Clay. Welcome to Market Shares. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. $6.1 billion is what the president is pledging from Washington, in addition to Micron's record-breaking $100 billion investment in the region. Market Shares analyst Ben Bascuk is here with a full recap of the president's visit. Ben?
Thanks, guys. Yesterday, I visited the most in downtown Syracuse to hear about Micron's economic impact in central New York. But outside the venue, talks of microchip giants were far and few. Sorry for those technical difficulties, guys. We'll circle back on those details with you later.
Ben, thank you. And we're going to stay on this topic. The day before the president traveled to Syracuse, he signed a package sending aid to our allies. Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan were all included in the package that took 6 months to pass through Congress.
Yeah, in just a moment here, we're going to bring in our political analyst, Luke Radel, on all of this. It looks like our technical issues have been fixed. Luke, a lot of numbers to sort through in this foreign aid package. Walk us through it. A potential TikTok ban even thrown in here?
That's right, Bradley and Peyton. This is an overwhelmingly bipartisan bill, primarily meant to send help to our small d Democratic allies overseas. Biden, in the East Room of the White House on Wednesday, celebrated signing the bill.
It's a good day for America, it's a good day for Europe, and it's a good day for world peace, for real. This is consequential. I just signed into law the national security package that was passed by the House of Representatives this weekend and by the Senate yesterday. It's going to make America safer, it's going to make the world safer, and it continues America's leadership in the world, and everyone knows it.
Let's take a look at the numbers on this bill. The largest share of the money in it is going towards Ukraine, where that country's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that without new U.S. aid, his country could fall against Russia's invasion. $60 billion is headed to Eastern Europe, about half as much as is headed to the Middle East, where Israel is facing threats from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Biden has been in close and sometimes tense conversations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And sliding under the radar is around $8 billion to Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific to combat China, which is a priority best exemplified by the latest element of this package, which, yes, does include a bill that could ban TikTok. The CEO of TikTok in the U.S. posted a video in response to the president signing the law on, where else, TikTok.
Make no mistake, this is a ban on TikTok and a ban on you and your voice. The community is also filled with 7 million business owners who have built their livelihoods on TikTok. While we make our case in court, you'll still be able to enjoy TikTok like you always have. In fact, if you have a story about how TikTok impacts your life, we'll love for you to share it to showcase exactly what we're fighting for.
There are many TikTok users, specifically people of our age, concerned about the potential ban. When could all of this happen and can it be stopped?
Yeah, so the timeline on this is a little convenient for lawmakers. It's going to take 9 to 12 months, which puts them beyond the 2024 election, meaning that you will have access to TikTok for at least the next 9 months to a year. Now, this requires the president to ensure that ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, sells off its U.S. assets and divests from its Chinese oversight in the People's Republic of China, controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. There are some pretty repressive data laws there that could, politicians say here in the U.S., allow TikTok to present user data from the United States to the Chinese government, which could be a national security threat.
And we're going to have to watch that, Luke. Let's zoom out and look at how long this bill took to pass. It's been 6 months since Hamas attacked Israel, and the president called for an aid package like this. And it seems like there's always some negotiation that's stalling Congress. A lot of people are asking themselves, is Congress broken? What's your response to that?
Bradley, it certainly seems like that right now. Politicians on both sides of the aisle saying that they're not able to get a lot done, and even House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is currently in charge of the Republican caucus, a majority of 1 vote, by the way, is facing threats for passing this foreign aid package, even though it passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. Folks like Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene say they're once again going to vacate the Speaker's chair, which leads to that weeks-long drama that we saw last time when Speaker McCarthy was ousted. Bradley, it seems like for the time being, we're going to continue to have dysfunction and gridlock in Washington. There's really no breaking news there about that. Reporting in studio for Market Shares, I'm Luke Radel.
Yeah, Luke, I was going to say, what else is new? Let's come back to campus now. If you've noticed some new flashier content on the Whitman School's social media lately, it's probably the work of POV Brand Management. The marketing company, whose founder we interviewed on this show just a few months ago, is part of a new effort for Whitman to market to Gen Z. That's according to Executive Dean Michael Haney, who's also SU's Vice Chancellor. He says it was a fortunate coincidence when he was walking by in the fall and heard POV founder Phoebe Gollingsrud talking about her company with a professor. Both parties say it's been a great partnership and they've both benefited.
It's cool to see a student having that opportunity for the school. Yeah. The U.S. economic growth was much weaker than expected to start the year, and prices are rising at a faster pace. The country's gross domestic product, which is the main measure of economic growth, was down to a 1.6% growth rate for the first quarter. It was expected to be 2.4%. Consumer spending also increased 2.5%, down from over 3% gain in the fourth quarter over the last year. Yesterday's report is the first of 3 that the Bureau of Economic Analysis will release on GDP. The next one will be at the end of May.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce and several other business groups are suing the Federal Trade Commission over its vote earlier this week to ban non-compete clauses. Those are used to block employees from leaving to work for competitors in the same industry. Earlier this week, the FTC voted to ban those to create more opportunity in the job market and more business competition. Now that band of groups are trying to block the ban, saying the FTC does not have the authority to change the rule, and the rule itself is just too wide in scope. The ban is set to take effect 120 days after the rule is officially published.
In a back-and-forth battle, shares of Trump media have shot up this week. This comes after the company revealed it was urging House Republican committee leaders to investigate possible unlawful manipulation of its stock. Another factor that led to this boost was after the deadline for former President Donald Trump passed to become eligible for an additional 36 million earnout shares. Analysts are still skeptical, though. They have been quick to note the disconnect between the company's lack of revenue and its roughly $5 billion market capitalization.
Let's talk banking now. JP Morgan Chase is caught up in U.S.-Russia sanctions. When did you think you would hear that? An overseas court is ordering over $400 million to be seized from the bank. This is a story we'll continue to watch, but this order is the latest example of how American banks are getting caught between the demands of the West and interest overseas. It also comes as the Biden administration continues to implement sanctions, oil price caps, and trade restrictions designed to weaken Moscow's military machine.
And Ford topped first quarter earning estimates, offsetting losses from its electric vehicles. The company maintained its 2024 forecast of adjusted earnings between $10 and $12 billion. It slightly lowered capital expenditure expectations and is raising its adjusted free cash flow outlook for the year. While, yes, the automaker beat earnings estimates, it is slightly missed on automotive revenue. Net income was around $1.3 billion compared to $1.7 billion a year ago.
And back to Boeing, a saga we continue to follow. They had better than expected first quarter, but they continue to burn through cash as the company tries to fix its production issues after a range of mishaps, most notably that near catastrophic door blowout on a 737 MAX earlier this year. Revenue fell 8% to $16.5 million, but the bigger issue is the company is burning through almost $4 billion. They did that in the first quarter, and that's more than they were forecast and more than Wall Street's expectations. CEO Dave Calhoun said in a statement, quote, "Lower deliveries can be difficult for our customers and for our financials, but safety and quality will come above all else. We are absolutely committed to doing everything we can to make certain our regulators, customers, employees, and the flying public are 100% confident in Boeing. And revenue has fallen 8% to around $16.5 million, which is still slightly ahead of expectations, Peyton, but a lot of issues for Boeing moving forward.
Boeing has also dramatically lowered the number of planes it expects to deliver this year, and now those shockwaves are being felt right here in central New York. Southwest says it will be pulling out of Syracuse in August. This is part of widespread cuts at the airline, as it says those slowdowns in Boeing productions have hurt its growth. Good news for flyers, though, about those dreaded delays and cancellations. The Department of Transportation is rolling out new rules that will require airlines to automatically give full cash refunds, not credit or vouchers, for those canceled flight or long delays. The DOT says this could save travelers $500 million annually, but those new rules and others won't take effect until this fall, so not in time for summer travel season, but it will take effect right before the busiest few months of the year.
We're going to go back to where we started here now with President Biden's visit to Syracuse. We have Ben Bascuk's piece with a full recap. Seem to agree with Ben's reporting, but we're going to try to bring you that story when we can. I think we're going to toss to a commercial break here, or not. We have major tech companies. They released reports earlier this week, released some earnings reports, and the markets start responding. Stay tuned.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Markets closed about 14 minutes ago for the week. Let's take a look at how our major three indexes ended. A lot to sort through this week, especially once you look at the new GDP numbers released just yesterday morning. But you can see, Peyton, all three in the green. Let's take a look specifically at the Dow and the NASDAQ. They both had a pretty solid week. The Dow still flirting with 40,000, but it's going to take a little bit to get there. Now let's talk GDP, because the economy actually grew at a slower pace than expected, as we mentioned earlier, but that's severely hurting hopes that the Fed will start cutting interest rates before the end of the year. Again, it was 1.6% growth versus 2.4% expected. And another note to make here, Peyton, is Meta disrupting the entire tech sector yesterday and kind of dragging the markets down with their disappointing earnings. But we're going to get to Meta in a moment. Let's start with our movers here. We're going to start things off with Chipotle. Why don't you give me your favorite Chipotle order before we start here?
Oh, I always go for a bowl with, white rice, chicken. Love the guac there.
Yeah, so. I can get behind that. The chips and guac are, I think, probably their best item. But look at Chipotle, 10% up on the week. Their stock, 3,000 right now, and you can see that straight shot up towards the end of the week. Again, they're going for that 50-for-1 stock split. They're going to vote on that on June 6th. And revenue also topping expectations, $2.7 billion versus $2.68 expected from Wall Street, and net income also up as well. Here's the big thing. They beat on everything in Q1, and they've been raising prices, but people don't seem to mind that, and their foot traffic in stores actually increased about 5%
Yeah.
too. So
I mean,
things
their
are looking
guac
good
has
here.
always been extra, but people are still buying it. Like you just said, yeah, they're getting more customers. Their numbers are up. And fast food restaurants are mainly seeing less customers, except for Chipotle. Chipotle is still doing well. And you mentioned that 5-to-1 stock split. That means if you have one share, you now have 50. And so when people see that, they start buying. So that's why the stock is doing so well.
Yeah, and that could be a good time to buy if things keep trending in the right direction. Watch out for Chipotle towards the end of June. We're just waiting on shareholder approval for that 50-for-1 split. Let's go to Genuine Parts. Really interesting pick here, partner.
Yes, so Genuine Parts, what they have is a golden cross. They're down a little bit this week, but last week was really fascinating because they had what's called a golden cross. So that happens when you have a short-term crossing a long-term average from below. So that's a big technical indicator that means the stock is gaining momentum in the short term, and it forms a cross when you're looking at the graph. So that's why it's called a golden cross. So the company is doing better. Cars are lasting longer is the thing. So people are buying parts to fix their problems in their vehicles rather than buying new cars. So the value of used cars are actually increasing, and this chip issue to mass produce new cars is just creating issues for buyers who are looking to buy new cars. It's just hard to get them now. So what people are doing is they're going to Genuine Parts, they're buying parts to fix their cars, and they're not buying new cars.
Genuine Parts, I like it. The auto and industrial distributor, they're actually up almost 20% on the year, so this is definitely one to watch. And I just want to note their dividend. They're currently shelling out a dividend of about $1 per share, but the annualized rate is about $4 a share, which is up 5% from last year. So they're going to keep increasing their dividend, which is good news for shareholders. Now we're going to get to Meta. We kind of talked about it a little earlier, but Meta shares tumbling about 10%. This started on Thursday, this phenomenon, but Peyton, it was their worst day since October of 2022.
Yeah, so Zuckerberg is trying to create this AI world, and he's just not getting anywhere with it. The costs of this company are rising and are increasing a lot, but they're just not getting any return on their dollar. Share price has already increased so much in the last year, but it dropped 13% just a few days ago. They're just having a stagnant revenue pretty much.
Yeah, their disappointing earnings report wiped out roughly $132 billion in market cap. That's an incredible number. And then CEO Mark Zuckerberg kind of made things worse on an earnings call because investors didn't seem happy that he wants to focus on AI and the whole mixed reality Meta Quest bit. They want him to focus more on the traditional platforms, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff Meta does. And of course the advertising.
Yeah, we just talked with Luke about the TikTok ban. So he's kind of almost sitting on a gold mine. If TikTok does get banned, which people are saying it will, people are going to go to Instagram and Facebook to post these reels and these videos and all that influencer stuff over there. And if this happens, the fortunes will reverse drastically. Yeah,
and you might think Facebook or Meta, you might think that they would actually go in for a bid to buy TikTok, and I'm sure they would put in a number, but the FTC, they haven't been liking mergers recently. They'd probably block that.
Yeah. Coming up on market shares, tech giants released earnings this week as they face a mountain of drama. What Wall Street reported after the break.
My name is Sadie Miller.
My name is Luke Brady. I go by St. Luke.
So this one I started with this guitar lick.
Welcome back to Market Shares. While Micron may be booming with a federal investment from President Biden worth over $6 billion, other so-called tech giants like Google and Tesla may be in some trouble. Market Shares analyst Michael Lamorte has more on the issue. Michael?
That's right, Peyton. With the president visiting Syracuse yesterday in support of Micron, you may have been distracted from what's really going on. This week, tech companies are releasing their reports on earnings, and it's not looking pretty. Let's take a look about quarter one. Google is facing its own set of challenges before its earnings report was released yesterday. There have been protests and internal restructuring within the company. Last week, Google terminated 28 employees following the protests against labor conditions and the company's contracts with the Israeli government and military. This occurred alongside a broader movement within the company regarding AI efforts and business decisions, leading to some internal unrest. Over to Tesla now. The electronic vehicle giant is also experiencing a series of setbacks. Tesla shares are down 31% year to date. The company reported a revenue loss of nearly $22 billion, marking the first year-over-year revenue drop since 2020. This decline follows a challenging quarter for Tesla, including additional price cuts on vehicles and its premium driver assistance system. On top of all this, the company also announced mass layoffs and issued a voluntary recall of more than 3,800 Cybertrucks on Wednesday due to a stuck pedal issue depicted in a viral TikTok video. So while Micron is enjoying federal investments right now, Google and Tesla, they're facing some significant challenges in the market.
It's really interesting. You got to wonder if this whole AI revolution is going to backfire on some of these companies. But let's talk about Google specifically. You don't think the war in Gaza would make its way into tech companies, but here we are. There's been a lot of protest plus internal restructuring at Google. How has that impacted the company's earnings?
Well, the restructuring challenges and those protests going within Google, they appear to be staying internally at the moment. Its parent company Alphabet released its earnings report just yesterday, and it looks like quarter one shaped up nicely actually for that company. Alphabet reported on an increased revenue of 15% on year to date, with just over $80 billion compared to that of last year's report, which was under $70 billion. Now, the CEO, Sundar Pichai, said, "Our results in the first quarter reflect strong performance from search, YouTube, and cloud," and that company also saying that they have great momentum headed into the future. But you're not going to want to keep your eyes off of that company because Alphabet, it's highly likely that those internal challenges might reflect in that next quarter.
So Tesla's recent string of setbacks, including layoffs and a product recall, it paints a challenging picture for the company, as you said earlier. The company reported a revenue loss of nearly $22 billion. How do you expect Tesla to perform in Q2?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, that's actually going to be entirely dependent upon how Tesla is reacting to that loss of revenue. We know about the layoffs. We know about the recall. So it looks like Tesla is trying to reset itself for that next quarter, quarter two. While shares are down on year to date, it's almost up 20% on the week, still down on the day though. Part of that may be a result of Elon's announcement that the company would be accelerating its project to create a new electronic vehicle. So it seems like the company is trying to patch their holes. And while I'm not expecting Tesla to completely resolve its revenue loss in that next quarter, I do expect it to be on better terms, guys.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. When we come back, a bittersweet goodbye and the send-off.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where do cats go on vacation? New York.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Well, the clock is ticking. In about 4 minutes here, Peyton and I will be signing off of Citrus TV for good. And as bittersweet as that may be, as we graduate and move on and go into the workforce that we always talk about here on this show, I want to take a minute to give back to this place, but really this show that's given me so much. I've been lucky to be here since the beginning, and this show helped me find my passion and has helped me carve out what I hope to be my future career, something no words can express my gratitude for. Starting something new like this is always a challenge, and Market Shares was no exception. A lot of people said this was the most ambitious show in Citrus TV history, but that's part of the fun, right? Pilot shows and trying something new, a marketplace of ideas, and throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. That's what this place is all about, learning with each other and learning from each other and figuring things out as we go. Watching and having a hand in this show's growth and evolution has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever been a part of. I want to thank Jake Morrell and Sean Dempsey for putting this idea together and believing in and trusting me to take the reins for the pilot shows and the only consistent anchor here. You are both immensely talented with bright futures. Mags Bilotti, thank you for putting up with me. You're the realest and you have an amazing producer mind. That's something that shows in every single product we put out each week. You all know I think very highly of you, but I can't thank you enough for the opportunities you've given me by asking me to be a part of this show. And of course, I want to shout out all the APs and crew that I've been fortunate enough to work with. Too many to name, but your contributions have never gone unnoticed. Also, thank you to all my co-anchors. Shout out Peyton, although I've been lucky enough to riff, everyone I've been lucky enough to riff with at this desk, starting with Tegan Brown and ending with you, Peyton Spellacy. And lastly, I want to thank you, the viewers, even if it's probably just our parents. Thank you all of you for holding on to your wallets with us. And it's hard to say goodbye to something that feels so personal and attached to you, but from those dreaded Sunday wake-ups to now Fridays at 4, it's time to pass the torch. I've always said this is the most fun show at Citrus TV, and to everyone I just mentioned, I task you with not letting that die. So, thank you. Peyton, it's been an absolute pleasure. The ride of a lifetime. I know you've only been here for 1 semester on Market Shares, but this show is truly something special.
I don't know if you remember this, but we had a class last semester and we were walking on the promenade and we ran into Jake Morrell, and it was just an idea, and he's like, Bradley, I need you on the show. And so it's been so fun to watch kind of this show grow and watch you on the show. Market Shares, this is an unexpected part of my journey here at Citrus. I would have never guessed that I would be on the desk talking about stocks, but here we are. So I just want to thank you. I've actually learned so much from sitting next to you on this show, and I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity. And I'd also like to thank Sean Dempsey and Mags for kind of showing me the ropes and being just good with me and helping me understand how the show works and all of that good stuff. So yeah, Citrus TV has showed us both of our passions.
I've said it before, but it's the people, not the place. That's going to do it for our last episode of Market Shares, but you can catch us next semester for the final time on Citrus TV. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. Have a great night, Syracuse.